Asher and Penland on W4CY Radio.
We rode across that bridge all night. We talked our way through city lights, traced all the lines. We're killing time under those buzzing signs.
This is the Pipe Man here on the Adventures of Pipe Man W4CY Radio, and I'm very excited about our next guest who, oh my God, like time just flies. They have an album called Borders and Boundaries. It's freaking 25 years old. That blows my mind. I don't even think I'm over 25 years old. But let's welcome to the show Chris from Less Than Jake. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you? You said that like shockingly, you can't believe how much time's passed right when you looked at my face. So I was a little bit like that son of a bitch.
I know, right? Listen, it is wild how quick time goes, isn't it? I sit there and I think about 25 years. I'm like, wait a minute, that's like my whole life. And I'm like, oh, wait, it's not.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I would notice all my elders, people in their late 40s, early 50s, elders, right?
Right.
I would notice them just kind of checking out and not giving a damn about anything. You're like, God, they're just so apathetic. You just stop caring when you get older. You realize, man, I'm on the back nine here. Like, I can't worry about all this, superfluous stuff that I've been worried about my whole life. Stupid stuff.
I figured out the actual reason and solution for that, actually.
Yeah.
Because, like people call it midlife crisis. First of all, not everything has to be a crisis, but I figured out what it really is. It's not midlife crisis. It's like you have teenage you who is anti-authority, anti your parents, anti everything except your friends. Those are the people you need to impress, is your friends and your peers. And then you become an adult, a young adult, and then now it switches because, everybody's calling you kid and you're like, I'm not a kid. So you start you become this other part of you, which is adult you, that does the opposite. It's like you want to impress, and people want to impress their bosses, or they want colleagues, or they do sometimes want to impress authority. And then once you hit like over that 40 age, you're like, you don't have to prove shit to anybody anymore, and you can finally just be you. And you I think it's a combination of that teenage and adult you that you finally find the real you.
Yeah, I kind of think that springs off what I was saying. I just think that, you get to the point where either you find the real you or you go down a path that's just destructive and dark, and you go through all that, and
yeah,
we've all had our moments, but I don't think I've ever had a midlife crisis, so to speak, that's been a bad thing. I just you just stop doing things that no longer serve you.
No doubt. I think of it more like it was a teen life crisis, because like I'm thankful that I didn't, go down another trajectory and all the stupid shit I did when I was a teenager. But man, I love that you have this special 25th anniversary reissue. So tell us more about it, and like why people should get this cool, reissue of what an amazing album.
Yeah, well, we were going to print the record up for the anniversary, so we could print the last reissue that we did. Or I was like, there's got to be extra stuff. I know we have. So we went and the archives, we all did, and looked for extra demos and things that we've never shared before. So that's what makes it on this re-release. I don't think we're going to be able to do that again. I don't think there's any other unreleased tracks at this point. I think this is like maybe the third time we've done this. I know Fat Records had done a reissue at one point. So again, we would have pressed the record and celebrated the 25th anniversary either way, but we thought we would at least repackage it for the collectors and put some extra stuff on there.
Yeah. So as far as the songs that haven't been released before, what makes them to where they weren't released in the past and that now is a good time?
Again, just the re-release. These are stuff that I had found in my collection, actually. I have one of those huge tubs you put like Christmas ornaments or stuff in your garage. You only use once a year. I have like a tub in there just filled, with mementos and things from our past. And one of them is filled with just CDs and cassette tapes and test pressings of records, etc. And I found a CD from the sessions, a bunch of demos and stuff that we had done at Roger's house prior to going to California to track the record. So that's what's made it on here.
See, I love stuff like that because isn't it kind of cool when you do go through like these tubs of things you've stored that are like from a time past, and you open them up and it's almost like you're getting birthday presents because you forgot you even had most of that stuff.
Yeah, I've tried to do away with a lot of those boxes. Those boxes you open up, you move 5 times, and like there's just cords in there. You're like, well, we don't use these anymore. But you know what? I might need it someday. No, you don't. Throw it away. So I'm pretty organized here. I'm in my my memento room. I have everything that Less Than Jake's ever released in this room right here.
Nice.
So really the only thing I have shoved in the closet are all those extra CDs and cassettes of remixes and demos and practice tapes and those things. And I don't think the practice cassettes are ever going to see the light of day, but we'll see.
You never know. You never know. Listen, too, it is funny. I've gone through that recently, too, where I'm going through stuff that I've probably moved 20 times. And I'm like, why am I saving this? But then there's other stuff that's gold, like what you're releasing on this reissue that is like, oh, my God, this is cool. I need to do something with this.
Well, it's interesting too. My mom was a big, she saved and sent it to me when I went away to college. She saved every birthday and Christmas card I got as a kid from all the relatives. She had them in books, and she sent me with all this stuff. And at some point I just would purge it over the years. And I love you, Mom, no offense, but you just stop having room for stuff. And I remember talking to Rob Cavallo, who produced all those Green Day records and signed Green Day. Rob produced a Less Than Jake record called Anthem, which was the follow-up to Borders and Boundaries. And we were talking one day, and I'm like, he was talking about this band he was in the 80s. I'm like, oh man, you gotta dig up some pictures and come in and show me. He's like, I don't have any. I go, what do you mean? He's like, I don't have any pictures of me from yesterday. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you think like, is this guy in the witness protection program or something? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah. He's like, at some point I just threw all that stuff out. He's like, I don't need pictures. All my memories are up here. And he was dead. He was dead serious. Like anything yesterday's clutter, it's already gone. It's a cash check. I'm moving here. And I'll never forget that about him. And you'll notice I consider Rob at least a musical genius in the way that he thinks. And you'll notice that with people, genius and severe autistic, like that can do crazy stuff, they don't listen to the noise. They're like this tunnel vision going straight ahead. And I've thought about Rob a lot over the years when I've been cleaning stuff. I'm like, why am I hanging on to this? For what? It doesn't serve me anymore. Get rid of it.
And I'm a big believer, too, of that clutter. When you have that clutter, it clutters your mind. So to your point, I think part of the reason he's such an amazing musician is because it's free in his head to be able to get creative.
Yeah, I think so. I know when, sometimes negativity and strife can make a great song and create great art. I'll agree with that. But everyday life, it doesn't bode well for me.
Right. Exactly. So what else do we have going on here in 2026 that we want to let the listeners know?
Well, we're going to be releasing some songs. We got offered some different projects this year. So we recorded a couple songs at the end of last year that we're going to throw around. And then we're collecting ideas, putting things together for a new record. We're kind of toying with doing an album. We're going to be over in Europe this summer, playing festivals. Of course, doing the Winter Circus UK run that's coming up here, and just staying busy doing what we do. We're out there for, I don't know, probably 100 shows a year still, flying around, doing our thing, man. It's great.
So I want to know, as somebody that also goes to them as well, is how do you compare the festivals in the UK, the festivals in Europe, and the festivals in the US? As an artist.
Yeah, will always prefer the UK festival. Just the mystique of all the books I read growing up, and now getting to see a lot of the YouTube videos of Reading and Leeds from the 70s, and reading about Deep Purple being there and Whitesnake and all these bands that I grew up listening to, and then getting to play Reading and Leeds and Download, and they're just class festivals. The enormity of it, that was the first time I ever walked to a festival that big was Reading and Leeds. And because Less Than Jake had played there, and I had been to other, amphitheater festival shows, Warped Tours in the United States. So certainly I'd seen a lot of people, but this was an enormity on another level. When you looked at the main stage, it was like 6 stories tall, and the scaffolding. You're, what is going on? Like, this is, next level. So I'll say I'll go with the UK for still being my favorite. European festivals are dialed in, and there's great ones in the US, and there's also crappy festivals everywhere too, and that's for another podcast.
That's totally true. That would actually make a good podcast episode.
Oh my God, I could talk for hours. I'd be your first 10 guests.
There you go.
Yeah. Everything from the rotten catering to the toilet accommodations, we could go on.
Oh yeah. I have to agree with you with the UK festivals. I love doing the UK festivals. As a press person, I think the way they treat press too is like next level compared to anywhere else. It's like they make the job easier for the musician, for the press people, and everybody, crew and everybody involved.
Yeah, the UK is laid back in a sense where I wouldn't expect that, but the press at the festivals in the UK are dialed in better than anywhere in the world. That's just a true fact. So I agree with you. I've never been a journalist going in, but they're always organized as an artist. Like, you're going here for 10 minutes, and they drag you to the next one. Boom, boom, boom. Then you're out. You're going to go enjoy lunch. So.
Oh, yeah. It's funny you should say that, because it's kind of a peeve of mine. Because if I'm told, listen, you have 10 minutes, I'm going to be finished at 9:59. Now, a lot of the U.S. festivals, the person before you will go on for like 30 minutes. And it's like that domino effect. But I think also the media people in the UK at the festivals, they work together. Like, instead of all being separate entities, it's like they all have each other's back. So it does run very smoothly, which is better for you guys, the artists, because listen, you are on a tight time schedule. So, doing stuff like that, it's important that everybody be on time. And then just the way you're treated. I've never heard anything bad said about anybody that runs a UK festival that I know of.
Yeah, no, we've had great experiences. So I'm sure there's bands out there that could tell you otherwise, but UK has always been awesome.
And how about Fat Records? Because I love them, but I think it's really a testament to, when bands like you have been with them like forever, because that doesn't always happen.
Well, yeah. So our last couple records, we've been on Pure Noise, but Fat still does reissues and does stuff for us. Of course, we've done a couple records with them. The original Borders and Boundaries was on Fat, and Fat Records is now we're going to be re-releasing our stuff with Hopeless, because Fat is getting
cool.
Fat is getting absorbed by Hopeless. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but Fat Records came along at a great time for Less Than Jake. We had recorded Borders and Boundaries for our third Capitol Records release. So it was funded from Capitol money, and we got the mixes back. We still thought we were on Capitol, and then we got dropped. And during this time, the president, our A&R person, and you hear this a lot from bands, that everyone was gone. And we got assigned this A&R guy who had been Megadeth's tour manager for years. I think he maybe managed Megadeth for a little while. This guy, Ron Lafitte, and Ron came in, and it just didn't, for us, this guy came in, and he was handed us, and, didn't really know what to do with us. You could tell his heart wasn't in it. So when they decided to drop us, we were like, well, this is great. We got this record, and Fat Mike picked it up immediately and stamped Fat Records on it, paid Capitol Records outright for the money they put into it. And it was the greatest thing that could have happened to us in hindsight. At the time, we didn't really care because we had a fan base that we were touring on. And luckily back then there was no such thing or thought of a 360 deal. So we were just raking in at the box office, building this career. It's like, oh, we're not in a major anymore. It doesn't matter. We're still going to pull into Detroit. And there's going to be 1,500 kids there wanting to see us play. So no harm, no foul. But it was the greatest thing because we now had legitimacy as a punk band on Fat Records. Okay. Right. When we went to Europe, it was like our audience doubled because we were on Fat Records, which was really ironic because Borders and Boundaries up to that point was our most commercially accessible record. If you go listen to it, it was our cleanest production. We had some radio songs on there, and it wasn't that we were necessarily shooting for that. You know, we didn't have any outside writers. It was all in-house still. But we were growing and maturing, you know, we weren't just punk kids anymore. We were learning how to play our instruments. So it all worked out. It ended up being great.
And speaking of that, like, it's funny you say learning how to play your instruments because it's so true. You know, with anybody that's been in punk, what does it feel like to play in a punk band now after doing it for so long? What's the differences for you as a musician?
Well, at some point I realized that nobody's ever commented about how much energy I have on stage. I was talking about the band's energy, but you know, they've never once said, man, Chris is jumping off drum risers. He's jumping up in the air. He's pogoing half the set. And I've always been athletic. I've always exercised. I still do keep in shape, you know, cardio. But I realized at some point, no one's ever said anything because they don't care. You're beating the hell out of yourself for what? And I realized that once I wasn't hiding behind that anymore, because that was a defense mechanism in the early days. I knew I wasn't that great. We weren't that great. So just jump around and go crazy. Everyone's drunk anyways. No one's going to give a rat's ass. But you know, you want to get better at your craft. And I realized that if I just moved a little bit less, I could still rock out. The chords are a little cleaner. I'm not as much out of breath. I could sing a little better. And so there was a little bit of that growth that's happened over the years. Taking care of myself during the day, you know, not burning my candles. I go to bed at home at the same time every night. I get up and that's now the same thing with, you know, being on the road. I try to keep the same schedule.
Yeah. And you know, I love that you said that because it is kind of true. Sometimes I look at musicians, especially the young ones that are doing what you're describing, and I'm like, man, how are they playing their guitar, jumping around and flipping around like that? And I'm usually in awe, but then I listen to you and I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense that you're actually going to be a better musician if you're actually focused on it.
Also remember, you know, and this isn't any disrespect, a lot of the bands can go that crazy because they're using backing tracks today. That's just a fact of modern music. We don't have backing tracks. We're out there warts and all. That's what you get. And so if I'm going to be out there, you know, naked at the class play, I might as well be halfway decent.
Absolutely. And see, you said something I talk about all the time that I think a lot of people don't even realize when it comes to punk bands specifically is that, you know, you do want to hone in on your craft and become a better musician. Like you want to grow. A lot of times our hardcore fans as an artist, they want you to stay a garage band, but you as an artist, I mean, you're going to want to grow if you're a true artist.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think that there's, you know, certainly, you know, Steve Jones is a better guitarist than he was in the 70s, you know, for the Pistols. But, you know, how good do you want the Pistols to be? You know what I mean? Like, how good do you want that to, you know? So you have to be reminded of that. It can't be too clean and pristine because I also know that frenetic energy and that looseness is what got us to where we were at. True. You know, I mean, I can look back to videos and just, they're online and all the time, you know, once a year I'll go to YouTube and just type in Less Than Jake 1995 and inevitably someone found a VHS tape in their mom's closet over Christmas and they uploaded it to YouTube and I'm watching it and It's like an out of body experience, man. I'm like, I know that's me. I have no recollection of this, but there's 1,000 kids losing their mind in Cleveland in this video. And I'm listening to the band with my eyes closed going, ooh, that's not that good. Then you open your eyes, you're like, okay, as long as I don't have to listen to the band with my eyes and my ears, I can just listen with my eyes. It's but it didn't matter. And it's also, we still are our own worst critics.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've gotten off stage and been like, man, I phoned it in tonight, or that sucked. I was awful. And you got that kid standing there, or multiple. I've seen you 12 times. That was the best I've ever seen you. And you're like, okay, what do I know?
Right. I know that feeling too. Cause even I, like, every time I get done with my radio show or I get done doing an interview, I'm like, man, I fucking sucked, but
yeah.
But then I get like, oh, that was the best interview I ever had. I'm like, oh, really? and so, yeah, I mean, I get it too. But you guys are badass. I love that Borders and Boundaries has a special 25th anniversary reissue. Everybody has to go to Fat Wreck Records and go get it. Is there any other things that you want to let the listeners know that we haven't covered already?
That's about it. Go check out my podcast, Christy Makes a Podcast. It's a songwriting podcast where I interview guests from all genres of music to talk about one iconic song from their career. I've been doing it for 6 years, and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. So thank you.
I love it. Well, thank you for making us great music all this time, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipe Man.
Right on. Thanks. Take care, my friend. Hey, it's Chris from Less Than Jake, and you're listening to Pipe Man on W4CY Radio.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipe Man on W4CY Radio.